September 2017. A desperate team at Epic Games, facing the looming failure of their years-in-the-making survival game Save the World, scrambled to slap together a free-to-play Battle Royale mode in just 10 weeks. They scavenged assets from a dying project, repurposed a cartoonish art style, and released it into a market dominated by the gritty realism of PUBG. They weren't looking to redefine the medium, they were looking to survive the quarter. What they ignited instead was a cultural supernova that would swallow an entire generation, turn teenage streamers into multi-millionaires, and generate over $20 billion in revenue. But beneath the neon skins and the viral dances lies a landscape fractured by corporate overreach, a cynical obsession with the metaverse, and a design philosophy that has systematically alienated the very fans who built the empire. We were sold a digital playground. We ended up in a global billboard. This is the story of how Epic Games broke Fortnite. To understand how Fortnite became worse, you have to remember why it was once the greatest show on Earth. In 2018, Fortnite wasn't just a video game, it was a town square. The mechanics were elegant in their simplicity: 100 players, one shrinking circle, and a revolutionary building mechanic that turned every gunfight into an architectural chess match. It was tactical, it was vibrant, and most importantly, it felt alive. Every week the map evolved. A meteor would appear in the sky, a mysterious cube would roll across the plains, or a giant robot would engage in a kaiju-style brawl in the middle of a match. Players weren't just playing a loop, they were living through a narrative that felt spontaneous and communal. But the success of Chapter 1 created a monster that Epic Games could no longer control with creativity alone. They needed scale, they needed retention, they needed to move from being a game to being an ecosystem.
The first crack in the foundation appeared with the introduction of skill-based matchmaking, SMBM, and the quiet infiltration of AI bots. In the early days, a match of Fortnite was a chaotic gamble. You might run into a complete novice or a professional tier builder. This variance created a natural ecosystem where players felt the urge to improve. But as Epic grew more protective of its massive casual player base, they began to curate the experience through hidden algorithms. Suddenly, the middle-tier players, the loyalists who had spent hundreds of hours honing their skills, found themselves trapped in a sweatfest. Every match became a high-stakes tournament where a single mistake led to an immediate trip back to the lobby. To mask the thinning of the casual herd, Epic injected lobbies with mindless AI bots, turning a once thrilling survival game into a hollow shooting gallery. The Victory Royale, once a genuine badge of pride, was devalued into a participation trophy. As the gameplay began to feel sterilized, Epic pivoted its focus toward the ultimate corporate siren song, the metaverse. They stopped viewing Fortnite as a battle royale and started viewing it as a platform for intellectual property. What began as a fun crossover with Marvel's Thanos in 2018 morphed into a relentless, exhausting barrage of corporate synergy. By Chapter 2, the game had lost its unique visual identity. The map was no longer a world with its own lore. It was a digital retail space where Peter Griffin, Darth Vader, and Travis Scott rubbed shoulders in a jarring, incoherent mess. Every season became an advertisement for a Disney movie or a luxury fashion house. The original characters, the Jonesies and the Remys, were sidelined for skins that served as walking billboards. Epic Games didn't just invite the corporations in, they handed them the keys and let them strip mine the game's soul for marketing data. This pivot reached its logical, bloated conclusion with the launch of Chapter 5.
In late 2023, Epic decided that a single Battle Royale map wasn't enough to sustain their ambitions. They launched LEGO Fortnite, Rocket Racing, and Fortnite Festival, 3 separate games crammed inside the same client. On paper, it was an ambitious expansion. In reality, it was a tactical dilution. The user interface, once simple and intuitive, was overhauled into a cluttered Netflix-style horizontal scroll that felt more like a marketplace than a game menu. Resources were diverted, the Battle Royale mode, the heart of the franchise, began to suffer from a lack of polish and a stutter in update cycle. The game became heavy, both technically and conceptually. It was no longer about the thrill of the hunt, it was about keeping users inside the ecosystem at any cost, funneling them from a racing sim to a rhythm game to ensure the screen time never dipped. Then there is the issue of the mechanical identity crisis. Fortnite's defining feature was building, the ability to conjure a fortress out of thin air. It was what separated the game from every other shooter on the market. However, as the skill gap widened, Epic faced a dilemma. How do you keep new players from quitting when they get instantly crushed by a veteran builder? Their solution was Zero Build. While Zero Build was a massive hit that brought back lapsed players, it also effectively split the community in two. The game's map design, which was once meticulously crafted around building mechanics, had to be compromised to accommodate players who couldn't build. Natural cover became more frequent, and movement items became more overpowered. The very thing that made Fortnite was treated as a legacy feature to be worked around rather than a core strength to be balanced. Behind the scenes, the company's corporate warfare further soured the experience. Tim Sweeney's public crusade against Apple and Google was framed as a fight for the freedom of developers and consumers.
But as the legal battles dragged on, it became clear that this was simply a clash of titans fighting over a larger slice of the microtransaction pie. While Epic played the role of the revolutionary underdog, they were simultaneously laying off 16% of their workforce, nearly 900 people, citing unrealistic financial expectations. The disconnect was jarring. The company was spending millions on legal fees and free game giveaways on the Epic Games Store, while the people actually building the Fortnite world were being shown the door. The technical performance of the game has also paid a heavy price for Epic's ambitions. As they pushed the Unreal Engine 5 to its limits, introducing nanite and lumen technology, the game became increasingly inaccessible for players without high-end hardware. Frame rate stutters, server lag, and game-breaking bugs became the new normal. The clean feel of the early game was replaced by a visual density that, while beautiful in screenshots, often made actual gameplay cluttered and distracting. They traded performance for prestige, ensuring the game looked good in trailers, even if it felt worse in the hands of the players. Perhaps the most cynical change has been the evolution of the item shop and the battle pass. Fortnite pioneered the modern battle pass, a system that felt fair and rewarding, but over time, the fear of missing out, FOMO, was weaponized. Limited-time events, exclusive skins that eventually return in bundles, and a rotating shop designed to trigger impulsive spending became the primary focus. The introduction of virtual V-Bucks inflation and the constant push for the Fortnite Crew subscription service turned the game into a digital casino for miners. The progression system, which used to feel like a fun way to earn rewards, now feels like a second job, requiring hundreds of hours of grinding or the tactical purchase of level skips. Did Epic Games make Fortnite worse?
If you define worse as a loss of identity, a decline in mechanical integrity, and the prioritisation of corporate partnerships over player experience, then the answer is an undeniable yes. Fortnite today is a marvel of engineering and a powerhouse of the attention economy, but it is no longer the game that captured the world's imagination in 2018. It has been stretched too thin, forced to be a social media platform, a concert hall, a shopping mall, and a multi-genre gaming hub all at once. The magic of Fortnite was its focus. It was a weird, bright, slightly janky world where anything could happen within the confines of a 20-minute match. Now, everything is scripted, every crossover is a contract, and every update is a data-driven attempt to maximise retention. Epic Games succeeded in their goal. They built the metaverse. They created a digital empire that is too big to fail and too pervasive to ignore. But in the process of conquering the world, they lost the game. They traded the joy of the discovery for the efficiency of the extract. The map is bigger, the graphics are better, and the crossovers are more expensive, but the soul of the island has been paved over to make room for a parking lot. This is the story of a game that grew so large it forgot how to be fun. This is the hollow triumph of Epic Games.